I want to start off just by talking a little bit about publishing, why publish, and just a little bit about surgical endoscopy, because I have the privilege and honor of being the editor or one of the co-editors of that journal. Okay. Why even bother with writing and publishing? Well, the statement that I tell the young people in my department, you can think of your CV as your bank ledger. You can think of it almost as your consolidated financial statement. And on that consolidated financial statement, your papers that have been published are like dollar entries. Your grants are like certificates of deposit. But each paper that you publish, that's another entry into that bank account. And when you really look for any job, private practice, and particularly academics, that bank statement is your CV that you're taking, and the more papers you have on there, the more power that you have. So from a purely selfish point of view, publishing papers is very, very powerful for promoting your career. So that's certainly one reason. Why is this the case? Well, it boils down in many ways to the definition of academic surgery. Why do we do academics? It's because we want to move the field forward, right? The reason we do academic surgery is that when you've gone through your life of doing surgery as an academician, you get to the end of your life and you look back, surgery is different because you were there. It's different because you've trained a bunch of people. It's different because you thought about surgery and ways to improve it. You've then taken action on those thoughts and done some research projects. And the way you take credit for that is by writing it and letting the world know that you did it. If you don't take that final step of writing it and publishing it and letting the world know that you did it, it's as if it never happened. So this is the way we document moving the field of surgery forward, is through this peer review process and the publishing process that we're going to be talking about today. Your writing is your documentation of the process of making a difference in surgery throughout your career. Peer review, in many ways, is sort of the free marketplace of ideas that are all competing for the light of day. Surgical endoscopy gets 2,000 submissions every year. That's a lot of papers, and they're all competing for limited space to actually get out to the world. And the peer review process is the place where that competition, who's going to get published and who isn't, takes place. I'm here to tell you the peer review process is far from perfect. It is far from perfect. It's managed by human beings that are busy, that don't always pay as much attention to things as they should. And that's why learning what you're going to learn today gives you a huge leg up in that peer review process. Because knowing how the process works and knowing how to write effectively to navigate that process will give you a huge advantage. Come on in, you guys. Welcome. You might as well sit up front because it's going to be a small group, if you don't mind. And we're going to be very interactive today. Okay, just want to make a few additional points. For academic surgeons, writer's block is a terminal disease. There's some people that are born writers, and it just comes very naturally. They hardly have to think about it. It just flows. Most of us are not like that. Most of us, you sit down in front of the computer or a pad and paper, and it's tough to get started. So you need to find ways to overcome that writer's block issue. And there's lots of different ways. I can tell you the way I do it. My way may not be great. Dr. Fingerhut probably has other ways to do it. The way I do it is when I'm writing a paper, I just blurt it. In other words, I usually do it when I'm driving into a dictaphone or just dictate it using a speech-to-text translator for my computer, but I don't worry about whether it's good or not yet. I just get it all down in the format that you're going to hear today. Once I've got it on paper, from there forward, it's a lot easier for me. because something's on paper. Now I can work with it. Now I can fix it. I can rewrite it. But that first step of just getting it there, for me, it's a blurt process. Blam, I just put it out there. I don't even use an outline. I just do it. Other people are more process-oriented. They go through a long outline process. But you need to figure out for you what the way around writer's block is, because you want to be a continual fountain of manuscripts. The second thing I would tell you, and this is also a little bit controversial, if you take the time to write something, don't give up on it. When you send it to journals, again, the peer review process is not perfect. You should expect rejection. The normal process is rejection. But if you've had an idea and you've worked it through and you've produced something, there is a journal out there that will publish it. It may not be the highest impact factor journal. It might not be the one that you were after in the first place, but somebody will publish it. So even if you've sent it to 2 or 3 or 4 places and had it be rejected, don't give up. Keep rewriting it, revising it. And again, the peer review process here will help you because you'll continue to get ideas as it gets reviewed about how to make that manuscript better. But don't give up on it. Make sure that eventually it sees the light of day. Again, I've said this a few times, peer review process is far from perfect. A lot of the reason that you're here today is to figure out how to navigate that process more effectively and to have your writing be more effective. And again, take advantage of rejection to improve your work. Some of the reviews that you get will be 2 sentences. That will not be very helpful. Other reviews that you get will be 2 pages and will have, a bunch of bullet points of how to improve it. I remember one of the early, I presented at the SUS as a first or second year faculty member. I thought my work was great. I presented it, I submitted my paper. I figured that because I presented at the meeting, it would automatically be accepted. And lo and behold, I got revised this manuscript, and I got 2.5 pages from Mike Sarr signed, telling me all the stuff that was wrong with my paper. And as a young faculty member, I got very defensive. I actually called up the program chair. What in the world is this? I have great stuff. And he said, calm down. This is the way it works. You take those points, you change the manuscript, you put it back in, it'll get accepted. And that's exactly what happened. So don't get defensive when you get the stuff back from the reviewers. Take advantage of it. And finally, get involved in the peer review process early on. If you know a journal editor, me, other folks, tell them that you would like to get involved in reviewing manuscripts. There's lots of papers out there to tell you about how to do peer review. You can get tips from people in your institutions about how to actually do that process. But getting involved in the peer review process will help you be a better writer, and it will help you get more papers published. Okay, just a couple words about surgical endoscopy before I turn the podium over to Dr. Boney. Surgical endoscopy, this is, we're at SAGES. Our journal is surgical endoscopy. We are partners in this journal with the European Association of Endoscopic Surgeons, where Dr. Fingerhut and Dr. Boney are from. This is a very powerful journal. The title doesn't necessarily reflect how powerful it is. In fact, it might be better if it had a different title. But this is, journals are often measured by impact factor. This is the most recent impact factor of surgical endoscopy. We are right here at 3.54, and you can see here's Annals of Surgery. There's some specialty journals in here. Here's JAMA Surgery, British Journal of Surgery, Journal of the American College of Surgeons. So we are pretty far up. Now, the way this impact factor gets calculated, it's based on the number of citations divided by the number of papers. Now, surgical endoscopy is not going to be printed anymore. But when it used to be printed and came to your office, it's really thick. There's a ton of papers in there. So our denominator is huge, which makes our impact factor be a little bit lower than some of these others. The more recent measurement of impact factor is something called the Google H5 index. It's a little complicated. The way it works is ours is 74, which means 74 articles published between 2010 and 2014 that have each been cited at least 74 times. I have no idea why that formulation should reflect the importance of a journal, but it does. Furthermore, I really like it for surgical endoscopy because we have the third highest H5 index of any surgical journal. So it's Annals of Surgery, Journal of Vascular Surgery, and Surgical Endoscopy. And the reason we're more powerful in this index is that this doesn't take into account that denominator of all of the papers that we publish. But I just say all of this again with my SAGES hat on, my surgical endoscopy hat on, to tell you that it is a great place to get published, particularly if you present at this meeting. You've got a leg up in the review process, so submit to surgical endoscopy.